So Donald Trump is suing the government for $10 billion because someone leaked his tax returns during his first presidency when he was also the President of the United States. And the guy who's going to approve that payment, the Treasury Secretary he appointed, who will literally be hitting send on a wire transfer from taxpayers to his boss, who can fire him at any time. They're calling this a lawsuit. I'd call it the most brazen self-dealing scheme in American history, dressed up in legal paperwork and filed in a federal court like it's somehow normal. So this week, Senator Ruben Gallego questioned Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during a Senate Banking Committee hearing about this lawsuit. And what you're about to watch is genuinely remarkable. Senator Go systematically walks Bessent through exactly how this scam works, how Trump is suing agencies that Bessent now controls, how any settlement or judgment would be paid from a fund that Bessent oversees, and how Bessent himself would be the one to authorize that payment to his own boss. In Bessent's defense, he just follows the law. He's just a paymaster. He has no say. Again, let's watch what happened. And as usual, I have a breakdown for you at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Bessent, thank you again for being here today. We kind of touched on this earlier. In addition to being Treasury Secretary, you are serving as Acting Director of the IRS. So following up on Senator Kim's questioning, so you are fully aware that the President is suing your agency for $10 billion. Yeah. We would agree. Would you agree that $10 billion is a good sum of money?
Yes, sir.
Where would that be cut from? Let's say for some reason he actually wins that lawsuit. Where would that $10 billion come from?
Again, it would come from
process-wise. I'm not asking like your opinion whether it's right or wrong.
It would come from Treasury.
It comes from Treasury, which comes from the general fund?
The Treasury general account.
So taxpayers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Part of the 440,000 taxpayers whose returns were leaked.
If the president, they're not suing, but if the president prevails in this lawsuit, he's going to be able to pocket that money. My question is the president, has anyone in the president's office talked to you about this lawsuit in any regard?
They have not, and the president said he will donate the proceeds to charity. You may have missed that.
So no one at all has discussed this to you whatsoever?
No, sir, and the president said he will.
Have you received, I didn't ask any more questions. Have you received any advice from Treasury's legal division about how to handle this potential conflict?
This is a Justice Department matter. They represent Treasury in it.
Have someone from the Department of Justice actually come and talk to you saying that this is their purview and you need to stay out of it? Or who has discussed to you what is your role in this?
Our general counsel, who's sitting behind me, has told me that it is a Justice Department matter. The Justice Department defends Treasury in matters like this.
Okay, so it has been discussed with you. Do you have any final say at all in the process of this? Or is the DOJ just going to instruct you to cut a check and or settle, and you have no independence to actually make a decision whether or not the president deserves $10 billion?
Again, that is a DOJ matter.
And so the DOJ will entirely make that decision whether or not the president should receive $10 billion. You have no say at all.
Correct.
So you would just have to write the check if you were told to write the check.
Correct.
And you would write the check willingly if you were told by a DOJ to the president.
I will follow the law, Senator.
Okay. I mean, I think for many of us, this is very simple. And I think if this had been happening in any other countries, it would look an absolute, like a total shakedown of the American taxpayer. Are you also aware that President Trump has filed claims seeking $230 million from the Justice Department for investigations conducted during his previous candidacy?
I'm unaware of the cumulative number.
Okay. So if the president wins or settles these claims, that money will come also from the Treasury Judgment Fund, which you do control. Have you recused yourself from any decisions about paying the president on these claims?
Again, I'll follow the law, and I'm not involved with any of this. It stems from justice.
So even though the Treasury Judgment Fund is called the Treasury Judgment Fund, you have no control over the Treasury Judgment Fund?
We act as paymaster.
So you will sign it then?
Sorry?
You will sign the check then? If you're a paymaster, you'd be the person's signature is to the Treasury Judgment Fund?
I would assume it would be a wire transfer.
Yes, I'm assuming we're not that old school.
Yep.
But that being said, so you have no say in this whatsoever. You will only basically follow what the DOJ says, but you're the person that actually is the final person that pushes send essentially on the wire transfer.
Yes.
And even if you feel or that it is unjust, the fact that this president is basically plundering U.S. taxpayer dollars, you will still hit that send button.
Even if I believe that 6103, the IRS tax code, was violated and 440,000 taxpayers were leaked
So
by Mr.
back
Littlejohn.
back to this other thing. So now, you do believe, though? I mean, do you understand why some of us see a problem with that? And let me ask just a very simple question: do you work for the president of the United States?
I work for the American people.
So can the president fire you?
Or he can.
He can fire you, correct?
Yes.
So isn't it a conflict of interest that you're going to be making these decisions and the president has full power over you?
I think you're confused, Senator. I am not part of the decision.
Well, you're certainly a person that send on the wire transfer, and I think that's why there's a lot of people that are actually
is not part of
do
the
not
decision.
trust and do not trust the president's actually looking out his best interest.
I guess you were saying that
I'm controlling the time here.
obeying the
I'm
law
controlling. You're not obeying the law. You're plundering U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Obeying the
plundering
law
U.S.
is the
taxpayer
decision.
dollars.
Obeying the
Plundering
law is
taxpayer
the
dollars.
decision.
Plundering. Thank you.
Okay, so if you're feeling like you just watched something deeply wrong, you're absolutely right to feel that way. Let me add some information you didn't have from just watching that clip, because this is somehow even worse than it looks. First, let's establish the timeline here because it matters. According to reporting from NPR and the Senate Finance Committee, the tax leaks that Trump is suing over occurred between May 2019 and September 2020. That's during Trump's first term. The person running the Treasury Department at that time, Steven Mnuchin, Trump's own Treasury Secretary, the person running the IRS, Charles Rettig, Trump's own IRS Commissioner. So Trump is quite literally suing the government for failures that happened under his own appointees while he was president. Senators Ron Wyden and Elizabeth Warren put it perfectly in their letter demanding answers. Trump is, in essence, now suing the government for his own failures during his first term. Now here's how the mechanism actually works and why Bessent's "I just follow the law" defense is complete nonsense. I searched the Treasury's own regulations, and here's what I found. The Treasury Judgment Fund is a permanent, indefinite appropriation available to pay court judgments and Justice Department settlement agreements against the United States. According to Title 31 CFR Section 256.1, Treasury's Bureau of the Fiscal Service certifies payments from this fund. But here's the key part. Only when certain tests are met, including that payment may not legally be made from any other source of funds. The fund exists specifically so individual appropriations aren't needed for each claim. But nowhere in those regulations does it say the Treasury Secretary is a passive robot who must write checks on command. The regulations require the Treasury to verify that the settlement or judgment is proper before payment. And yet, Bessent sat there and claimed he has no say in whether to pay Trump $10 billion. Let's be clear about what he's really saying. If the Department of Justice, which is run by Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi, who Trump appointed, tells him to pay Trump $10 billion, he'll do it. No questions asked. Even though he controls the fund, even though he works for the American people, not just Trump, even though his own agency is being sued, here's what makes this particularly gling. Charles Littlejohn, the contractor who leaked the tax returns, is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence. He pleaded guilty in October 2023 and was sentenced in January 2024. According to the Justice Department's own statement, he violated his responsibility to safeguard sensitive information, and prosecutors called his actions unparalleled in the IRS's history. He's in federal prison right now, serving his sentence at FCI Marion with a release date of October 2027. So the person who actually committed the crime is behind bars, but Trump wants $10 billion from taxpayers. Not from Littlejohn, not from Booz Allen Hamilton, the contracting company that employed Littlejohn, but from you, from the Treasury General account, from taxpayers. And about that $10 billion figure, according to reporting from multiple outlets, including CNBC and Tax Notes. Trump is citing IRC Section 7431, which does allow individuals to sue for unauthorized disclosure of tax information. Trump is claiming damages of at least $10 billion. For context, other billionaires whose information was also leaked by Littlejohn, including Kenneth Griffin, have filed similar lawsuits. But as ABC News reported, legal experts question whether Trump can prove $10 billion in actual damages, especially given that his family business has continued to ink deals since his re-election. Let's talk about the receipts from Bessent himself. During his confirmation hearing in January, Bessent faced questions from Democrats about unpaid tax liabilities. He owes nearly $1 million in Medicare taxes and is in litigation with the IRS over it. According to PBS NewsHour, he committed to paying the tax bill if a court rules against him. So the man who claims he'll follow the law and write Trump a $10 billion check is currently fighting the IRS over his own tax bill. You can't make this up. Now here's the strategy they're really pursuing, and it's not subtle. This is a shakedown. Senator Go used that exact word, and he's right. Trump files a lawsuit for an absurd amount of money against agencies he now controls. His attorney general decides whether to fight it or settle. His Treasury Secretary writes the check, and if Bessent objects or tries to exercise any actual judgment, Trump can fire him. Bessent admitted it right there on camera. He can fire you. He can. So when Bessent says he has no say in this, what he's really telling you is that he's chosen to have no say. He's chosen to position himself as a rubber stamp rather than as a cabinet official with duties to the American people, because the truth is Treasury secretaries throughout history have had substantial say in how government funds are spent. That's literally the job, but Bent wants you to believe his hands are tied, that he's just a paymaster who pushes send on wire transfers when told. That's not following the law, that's abdicating responsibility so Trump can raid the Treasury without anyone standing in his way. Here's the language you can use to explain this to others. The president is suing his own government for $10 billion over a leak that happened when he was president, and his own appointees ran the agencies he's now suing. The people who would decide whether to pay him work for him. The person who would write the check works for him and can be fired by him. And all of that money would come from taxpayers, from you. That's not a lawsuit, that's theft with extra steps. So what does this actually mean for you? If Trump wins or settles this case, $10 billion comes out of the Treasury General account. The same pot of money that funds everything the federal government does. That's money that could go to fixing roads, funding schools, paying for veterans' benefits, supporting Social Security. Instead, it would go into Trump's pocket. It's like if your boss sued the company you both work for, using company lawyers to argue the case, and then paid himself with money from the company payroll, except the company is the United States government and the payroll is your tax dollars. This isn't the only lawsuit Trump has filed against his own administration. He's also seeking $230 million from the Justice Department for investigations during his first term. These lawsuits add up. Here's what this means for how our government functions. We've never had a sitting president sue the federal government he runs and oversee the payment of damages to himself. According to the Congressional Research Service's analysis of the Judgment Fund, it was created in 1956 specifically to reduce congressional workload, so individual appropriations weren't needed for legitimate claims. But as one academic article in the American University Law Review notes, the fund's open-ended grant of authority, coupled with lack of disclosure, have left it vulnerable to misuse, potentially allowing the executive to use it to settle claims for political reasons rather than litigative risk. That was written in 2011, before anyone imagined a president would be brazen enough to sue his own government. Now, Senators Wyden and Warren are demanding to know whether there's been improper coordination between the Treasury and the White House to secure the president a personal check of $10 billion signed by the American taxpayer. And for what? What is this $10 billion for? Trump says it's for reputational harm from the leak of his tax returns, except the New York Times reported in 2020 that he paid only $750 in federal income taxes in both 2016 and 2017, and no income tax in 10 of the 15 years prior. Was he harmed by the truth being revealed? ProPublica's reporting showed significant discrepancies in his financial records. Was he harmed by journalism? The real reason is sitting right there in the lawsuit itself. According to reporting from NPR, Trump's complaint claims the leaks adversely impacted President Trump's support among voters in the 2020 presidential election. So, he lost the 2020 election, and now he wants taxpayers to pay him $10 billion for it. The man who spent 4 years claiming that the election was stolen now wants you to compensate him for losing it. As of now, the lawsuit has been assigned to Judge Kathleen Williams in the Southern District of Florida. The Justice Department hasn't publicly stated whether it will fight the case or settle. Treasury Secretary Bessent hasn't recused himself despite the obvious conflict. And just 3 days before Trump filed this lawsuit, the Treasury Department canceled all $21 million worth of contracts with Booz Allen Hamilton, the company that employed Little John, raising questions about whether Treasury was coordinating with the White House to strengthen Trump's case. This isn't about taxpayer privacy or holding the IRS accountable. If it were, Trump would be suing Booz Allen, Hamilton, or Little John personally. This is about whether a president can use the power of his office to extract billions from taxpayers for things that happened during his own presidency, overseen by his own appointees with the payoff approved by his own current appointees. It's about whether we still have a functioning conflict of interest framework in this country, or whether those rules simply don't apply anymore when it's inconvenient. And here's the thing that should terrify you. Bessent sat there and said he'd write that check not reluctantly, not with any acknowledgement of how insane this is. He said he'd follow the law as if the law requires him to rubber stamp whatever Trump demands, rather than exercise the judgment that comes with being Treasury Secretary, which means they're not even pretending anymore. They're just telling you exactly how they're going to do it and daring anyone to stop them. Don't rob a bank and then demand the bank pay you damages for letting you rob it, unless you're the president, apparently, in which case you sue the bank, hire the judge, and write yourself the check. If you want more clear breakdowns like this that cut through the noise and explain what's really happening, make sure you hit like on this video so more people can see it. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, because these conversations matter and your voice helps keep this story alive. Share this with friends and family so they understand